What does it take to turn space into place? This year, us summer students at the Federation of Calgary Communities had the opportunity to learn just that. The task? Find a community that looks like it needs some intervention in activating its spaces, determine a way to activate such space, and be tactical. But what exactly do we mean by be tactical? The catch. We had a budget, and that budget will remain a mystery for the duration of the project. We needed to employ tactical urbanism in a way that would be cost-effective, sustainable, and accessible. AKA, you've got to be cheap, and you've got to think cheap. Our journey started off scouting out communities. This required lots and lots of driving all over the city. Finally, we came across Taradale. Here, we found that its lakes looked like they needed life. Annihilated gazebos, shopping carts in the water. It was quite a scene. One thing we noticed in particular was that at one of the lakes, community residents were bringing in their own chairs to sit at the park. That's when we came up with the idea to build benches for this community to support their need for sitting and communal engagement. The plan was for this project to be an experiment. We wanted to see how the community would interact with these benches. We wanted to provide the ingredients for a gathering space. And this is what we envisioned. Some seating and tables, color to add some life. The seating would be in a general location, and there would be a welcoming environment to rest and gather. For the community of Taradale, we planned to pick a few colors to paint the benches, build the same bench a couple times, and then place the benches in the Taradale community for residents to interact and enjoy. Execution was as follows. To be economical, we planned to use pallets for building our benches. Tools were sourced from various co-workers. Accessible tools included a leveler, chop saws, drills, and others. In addition to this, we also needed paint. We were able to source this from a free donation by Cloverdale. In addition, we needed to agree on a design for the benches. Our goal was to make the benches light enough to be movable, but not so much that someone could easily steal them. Furthermore, they needed to be at a reasonable height for an individual of any age to be able to sit: children, youth, adults, and seniors. Using the 3D modeling software Rhino, a set of benches were designed. With that, we spent some time picking colors for our benches. Color schemes were tested using the model benches that were designed on Rhino. No experiment is complete without devising a way to measure results. For this project, we determined two methods of measurement. 1, the bumser, and 2, physical observation. Let's start with number 1. What exactly is a bumser, you may ask? Well, it was developed as an automated way to count the number of people who would sit on a bench. Created using a small button, Arduino microcontroller, a 4-digit 7-segment display, some perf board, and a 9-volt battery. The bumser was designed and developed specifically for this project. When an individual sat on the bench, the button would be pressed and the display connected to the button would count upwards. The second method employed would be visiting the site every couple of days and writing down our observations. The construction of the benches required a lot of manual labor. Unlike this video, the process took many hours. Leveling, sawing, and drilling, an unending cycle. As smooth as we hoped the process would be, some setbacks were encountered. Firstly, the construction process was disruptive to other businesses. Initially, we aimed to get the work done so that we would not bother other businesses. However, after many more complaints came in, one of our coworkers graciously offered for our construction to continue in his garage. Partway through the process of assembling the benches, it was decided that a table would be a great addition to the benches, and thus efforts were made to design and build a table too. This process took an additional 2 days. However, our results made our labor worth it. Eventually, it got to the point where we started to paint the benches. We chose the Federation colors of orange, lime green, and forest green for our benches. After applying a couple coats, our project started to become alive. The colors made the benches look vibrant. Our work on these benches wowed the Federation of Calgary Community staff. Remember this photo? Once the benches dried, a plank of wood was acquired to install the bumser into one of the benches. As easy as this seemed, It was a very challenging feat as the button had to be placed precisely such that when someone sat on the bench, enough pressure would be applied to allow the button to count the interaction on the display. It was an exciting moment once we got the bumper to work.
Okay. Woo! We did it!
On Friday, July 28th at 9 a.m., we installed the benches at Taradale Lake. We brought 5 out of the 6 benches and the table. The bench with the bumper was excluded because it was a rainy day and the electronics were in need of a case. We placed the benches within a snow fence that surrounded the gazebo. Some community residents watched us install the benches, so instead of observing, we left the benches for the weekend. On Monday, July 31st, we came back to check on the benches and were surprised to find the benches stacked outside the fence, and the table flipped on its side. We were thinking that these actions were done by the city and the benches were being prepared to be picked up and thrown out. In response, we collected the benches and moved them out of the area. Reflecting on what happened, however, we remembered that this project was an experiment and agreed that we were willing to accept whatever happened to the benches. The following day at 11 a.m., we put up the benches again. However, some changes were made. We added the Federation's logo and phone number alongside prompts that would encourage people to sit on the benches, such as "move me" or "sit on me." For this installment, the bumper bench was also added. We also placed the benches in a different location in the park, near some trees opposite to the gazebo. When we returned later that day, we were happy to discover that the benches were moved. We even found some rice spilt near the benches, so perhaps people were having lunch and moved the benches. Unfortunately, curious residents happened to find the bumper underneath the bench and disconnected its wires from the button. As a result, if the bench was used more, we could not track if someone sat on it. However, the number 20 was on the display, suggesting that that amount of people interacted with the bench. The bumper was removed from the bench, and we agreed that observing would be the best way to measure impact. Over the next couple of weeks, every few days we checked up on the benches and could say positively that the benches were being used. Their position was moved every time we came to check, meaning that our project was ultimately successful. Overall, the project took us around 2.5 weeks to execute from ideation to installation. Despite the long hours, it can be agreed that a lot was learned from this project. For one thing, we discovered that using the cheapest materials may not save money overall. We also learned to ask lots of questions. Ultimately, we learned that sometimes something as simple as a seat can be enough to spark engagement in a community and turn a space into a place. Hi there, it's me, one of the Activate adopters. You probably thought I was done. Well, I thought so too. But let me tell you, today is August 23rd, 2023, and today was the day we were going to collect the benches from Taradale. However, there's one thing we saw. We weren't done, and it was very exciting indeed. When we went to go collect the benches, we were surprised to find people actually using it. Something we've never actually seen before when we went to go check on the benches. It was a very exciting way to end this experiment indeed.
Yes. Jeez. Oh. I am. I'm recording all of it.
I'm so happy we finally saw. I love it on our last day. That's when we see people using the benches.
Right? It was meant to be.
Impactful.
Engaging. Supportive.
Be part of it.